To set the scene of what we're looking to go through today, I know that in attendance we have a combination of Feed It Back customers, wireless social customers, those that have both of us, and a few attendees that don't use either platform at the moment. So the idea for today's call is, obviously the main focus is going to be about what we've started doing in partnership now between the two parties. So what you can achieve if you use wireless social data collection with the Feed It Back platform and all the analytics and the reporting and the amazing things that those guys can do with customer data now. In terms of the structure, first of all, I'm going to just run through a little bit about wireless social. Most of you will know who we are if you're on this webinar, of course. So apologies for covering old ground, but the idea is some of you won't have used the platform before and don't know how it works. And for others who are customers, a really common piece of feedback we get is, because the platform is ever evolving and we're always adding new features, just as the guys that Feed It Back are, that it's quite easy for existing customers to fall behind a bit on what the latest features do. So I'll try and cover those, just headline figures and headline statistics about how it works, just so everyone has an idea at the same level of what sort of data is being passed through. At the point where we discuss where we're handing data over to Feed It Back, I will let Carl discuss the remaining data. So a bit of a whistle-stop tour of wireless social. Here we are. For those that don't know, we are a platform that allows guests to log into the Wi-Fi in a very simple, user-friendly way, but achieve some fantastic things. We've now had just over 12 million active users in the UK, so about a quarter of the adult population have now logged into Wi-Fi through wireless social. We have about 3,500 customers now who are all UK hospitality, or 99% of them are, and we integrate with over 50 specialist hospitality solutions such as Feed It Back, and we do try and choose the best out there based on what our customers tell us to improve our solution. And that whole network's based on, exactly as Carlo and Kevin echo, creating something better than we had before for our mutual customers. And this is just an idea of some of the companies we work with to give you a taste. It is all purely hospitality within the UK. In terms of what the platform does, wireless social, for those that are aware, it does quite a bit. So we're not going to go through it all today. Don't worry, it's not going to eat into your entire afternoon. For anyone that wants to learn more about all of these segments of what we do, you can request this slide deck or just get in touch with them and let you know. What we're going to focus on today purely is how we collect the data and then how we feed that into Feed It Back. Okay, so the way wireless social works is that when someone walks into your venue and they wish to access the Wi-Fi, there's a whole myriad of options for you now to offer them this free Wi-Fi, whether it's an unprotected network, simply offer them a password, or all sorts of different login options. Ours, we like to think, is possibly the best solution out there for hospitality. As you can see, it's all branded. We create that for you, and then the customer, when they click on your branded network name, so the Tavern Wi-Fi, agree with these options of how you wish to log in. On average, each of our venues seems to get about 4,000 successful logins per venue per year, although some of them are topping out at about 8,000. Obviously depends on footfall. So that gives you an idea of the sort of data collection we can achieve for our customers, and it's about 10%. So there's 9.87%. We can tell how many customers are in a venue at any given time and how many are on the Wi-Fi. So about 10% of our operators, customers within our operators, are being logging onto the Wi-Fi. Little things then about how it works. The customer then logs on, and then you can turn to any landing page you wish. So you can decide to take them to your Facebook page, your menu, your Instagram as a landing page. One thing a lot of our customers don't know and aren't using yet is you can change that to vary based on the number of visits that particular individual has made to your venue, their gender, their age bracket, if it's their birthday, if it's near their birthday. So you can really tailor this page, which is useful real estate, to put a tailored message to that person based on whatever you think would have the biggest impact, and then maximize it by changing it each time to get the maximum benefit from each visit. In terms of GDPR, which was a huge factor for everyone's year last year, and I'm sure we all spent far too long in meetings discussing GDPR than we would have liked. We've been kind of investigated and kind of stripped to the bones and read through all of our privacy policies, data policies, the login journey. And thankful to say it is absolutely bob on. Complete confidence on the GDPR compliance side of things. The nice thing about our login journey is that our opt-in rate appears to be averaging out in hospitality in the UK at about 79%. So if you're with Wireless Social and your opt-in rate isn't around 79%, give us a call or an email and we'll have a look into that for you and see if we can tweak your journey, which is amazing. It means that about 8 out of 10 of your customers using your Wi-Fi will be giving you permission to market to them. So it should be, on average, be responsible for about 75% of your data collected for your marketing. And if it's not, again, have a chat with us and we'll see what we can do to help there. Big thing about Wireless Social is that the login option is not just a traditional form, so it's really user-friendly. Single click on Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn or Instagram takes them to the privacy policy and the consent page, so they can be online in 2 or 3 clicks, literally. 62% of our audience are currently logging in through Facebook, out of the previous 12 million logins, and that's brilliant because the data collected in there is incredibly accurate. Everyone has their accurate or a real email address in the back of their Facebook because it's the email address you log in with. Everyone has their accurate date of birth because it pushes all of your friends and relatives and colleagues to say happy birthday. So you're collecting really accurate data through this platform. If you wish to do focus on people's birthdays or tailor message them on that, or actually improve your email open rates because it's an actual live used email address. It also captures all of the social likes, which is something that a lot of our customers are taking advantage of. In fact, we thought it'd be useful because this is a slide we probably showed to Carlo and Kevin when we first sat down and said, okay, we can definitely do something fantastic together, but what is it? We showed them this example and said, okay, here is a list of the sort of data we are collecting for everyone that logs in through social, which is 62% for Facebook and 67% for all the social options combined. So you can see they're the sort of things that our customers are collecting with consent. So it's not just your standard email address, postcode, phone number. You're also getting behavior. So how many times they logged in, how many times have they visited, what was their first visit, their last visit, what's their visit frequency, how many of your venues have they visited, how many times have they walked past outside. It's incredibly valuable, rich data that we're now collecting for our customers to start to really understand the behavior of their customers that have logged into Wi-Fi, those that haven't. And we'll go into that in a bit with the new edition of Presence. But we also collect things like Facebook data, so the Facebook page that they like, so which football team they follow, what their music taste is, what their interests are, if they follow any other operators in this sector, any competitors or yourselves personally. We also know about device data, so the MAC address, which is unique, which allows us to track that device as it wanders past your venue and comes in, but it also allows you to know what type of device they're on, so you can tailor your messages based on mobile phone apps, if need be, if that person's a regular mobile phone user, or a different message to those who are using a laptop, pardon me. And then also very interesting, what people take a lot from is the demographic data. So gender, birthday, hometown, social interests, age, all these things that you're capturing that you can start to use to get a real picture of who your regular customers are. And again, it can just give you more insight than you had previously because it's a huge data set that's growing every day. The addition that we made that really sparked this relationship with Feed It Back and made us know we had to start doing more about people who are actually dining in venue. It wasn't just about using it to send a nice tailored birthday message afterwards. Was something called Presence. So some of those on the call will already be aware and have this live in their venues and using it. Others will have this live and not taking full advantage, and we'd love to hear from you and start working on you with that. In terms of what is Presence, it's basically Google Analytics, but for bricks and mortar. So we'll all recognize the slide on the left, which is your normal Google Analytics dashboard. The slide on the right is our Presence dashboard. What it is doing is tracking people's devices, regardless if they've logged into your Wi-Fi or not, as they walk past your venue, as they walk into your venue, as they're sat there in the venue. And the first question we get asked is it GDPR compliant? Which obviously is a very sensible question. Because it's anonymous data at that point, all we know is the unique MAC address of that device, which is like a fingerprint for a mobile or laptop or smartphone. It's perfectly legal because it's anonymous. All we're tracking is behavior. We know that that unique device has walked past 10 times, it's come in once, and we can start to do things with that behavior. So we split it into two, one of which is unknown devices. this is everyone that may have logged into your Wi-Fi, they may not have done, they may never even have walked into your venue, actually walking past. But you can start to build pictures about your operation. So it's no longer based on the EPOS data or on gut feeling or actually human accounting at the door or inside the venue. This is literally how many devices have walked into your venue, how many have walked past, how long did each device stay for, how long did they stay for based on time of entry or day of the week, and all these things you start to track. How often does your average customer actually come back into your venue, and how does that change over time? How does that change over things that you might have actually amended within your offering? Have you launched a new menu? Are people coming in more often and more regularly, or is it slowing down? So it's really useful data. One use of this, of which there's many, and I promised everyone I wouldn't go into them all on the call today to keep it as concise as possible. But one really easy to kind of appreciate example is we can track how many devices walk past your venue and then give you an exact percentage each day of how many of those walk in, which is really useful. This is a live example, so people can actually change A-boards outside of their venue, as one of our customers did. And this graph, bottom left of the screen, is an actual example of a real life customer who shall remain unnamed. We can say to them, okay, on the date when you change the A-boards, where that dotted line is, we can tell you exactly how your conversion changed. And we're not saying we have all the answers, but we know there's a direct correlation. You change your A-boards and your conversion dropped by several percent overnight, consistently, and stayed that way until they removed the new A-boards and went back to their old design. So there's dozens of applications for this, but you can decide how it would suit your venue the best. Another one that's really useful about things such as feedback, and I try and not steal any thunder, is you can start to track things such as dwell time of all of your customers per venue based on hour of entry. So how long are people staying for based on when they enter the venue, and how is that affecting their experience? Is your menu tailored to someone who arrives at 3 o'clock? And again, this is a real life customer example, and only wants to stay for 30 minutes. Because it's hard to be everything to all people, but if you know what your customer behavior is in general, you can start to place that with staff rotors, with table reservation time slots, with menu changes. So this is all the sort of data we're now feeding to feed it back on a daily basis about all of our joint customers, so they can start to do some really clever analysis on, well, what change did that make on that customer experience? How happy were they based on these factors? In addition to that, we've got known devices. So known devices are people that have logged into your Wi-Fi, and they are part of the 79% that have said, yes, I'm happy for you to market to me. We can then overlay that presence data. So what that means is we will know that John Jones is on visit number 20. He first visited in January, so he's been coming a lot. He logged into his Facebook. He's opted into marketing, so we can speak to him. He likes rock music. He likes cross sales. His average dwell time is 1 hour. We'll know if the average normally comes on a Saturday, at what time. So you can speak to him in a different way than you might speak to Ian Smith or Sarah Parker, if that makes sense. So you can speak to these people not just based on who they are, their age, where they live, what their interests are, but actually how did they behave as human in and around your venue. So you can start doing true lapsed customer campaigns. Has their device physically not walked into your venue for 3 months, for example? So this allows you to do some really cool things on the other side as well, which is to track the results of your marketing. So you can send an email marketing campaign, and we can actually tell you how many of those devices walk back into your venue, which we don't believe anyone's been able to do before. So if you tell us who you're emailing for a Valentine's Day campaign, a live event, something you've got going on, a new menu launch, or just a newsletter, we now have a control group for you, which is everyone else that you've not sent it to, both opted into marketing and not. So the control group's huge. And we can tell you how often and how frequently that device has physically walked back into your venue within a time period you agree after that message is sent out. So again, this is a real life example from one of our customers who did a 2-month campaign with a particular one based on, I think it was a new menu that they'd launched or a new loyalty app they'd launched, and it was a 54% increase in visit frequency with that time period. So they know now they can rank all of their email marketing campaigns over the years, say which worked best, which was the least successful, and they can ask for more revenue, more funding, more headcount to work on the things that get them more footfall. The last thing I'll talk about before our integration with the guys that feed it back is also the newest addition to our features on wireless social is you can do the exact same thing now, but through social media, which has definitely never been possible before. So we can work with you to do targeted social ads so paid campaigns on Facebook, Instagram, Google Ads. And we can actually tell you that group who received the Facebook marketing versus those who didn't, what was the difference in return rate? What was the difference in dwell time? What was the attribution of how often they came back after that campaign versus those who didn't see it? So we can go through all this in more detail, of course, for any of our customers who want to learn more about it. But these are the sort of things that led us to think that it would be a phenomenal idea to reach out to someone with expertise in getting customer feedback, such as Carlo and his team, because our whole business has grown over 5 years of realizing early on that we are not experts in hospitality. We are world-class at collecting data, and we're very good at thinking that we want to do what's best for the customer, but we haven't lived and breathed inside these venues. We don't know what's valuable for you guys. So we went and found the best in the sector and feed it back and said, okay, guys, what do you think your customers want to do with this data? So what we do now, we get everything we've discussed. So the presence data, the demographic data, interest, last visit, visit frequency, birthday, everything in there. We put it in an API on a daily basis, and that goes over to the guys that feed it back. And they've created a couple of things that you can do with it, which, you know, blows our mind because we're not experts in this field, but we think everyone's going to be quite excited by it. So I won't go through it. You can see on the right there, there's two things that are the main headline usage of this now. It's in Feed It Back. And I'm going to let Carlo and Kevin tell you themselves what they're doing with this data and what you could be using this data to achieve through the integration. And after that, we'll wrap up and answer any questions anyone might have had throughout this session. Okay, Carlo and Kevin, if you'd like to kind of take over and share your slides, I'm more than happy.
Thanks, Sam, and hi everyone. So these are the customers that we work with. They're all hospitality customers, and we've got a real mix of sort of premium dining, casual dining, pubs, late night, bars, cocktail bars, and a lot of different stuff in between. And what we do for these customers, it splits into two main things really. One is guest opinion, and the other is guest engagement. And around both of those things, there's lots of analytics and reporting. So guest opinion is all about understanding what your guests are thinking and saying, regardless of which channel they choose to do that in. So whether they want to answer a survey of yours, or send you an email, or fill in one of your web forms, or write a review on TripAdvisor, Google, or Facebook, or post via Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, or send you a DM via Twitter or Facebook, or even phone you up. So it's bringing all of that into one place for you to understand, search and analyze, and really understand what people think and why. That's the guest opinion side. On the guest engagement side, it's about responding and engaging with your guests through the channels that they chose to talk to you in. So that could be sending an email, that could be responding to a review, or it could be replying to a post or a DM. And that's all done from within Feed It Back's guest engagement product. And also talking amongst yourselves to find out any problems before resolving a complaint, for example, is very easy. So that's essentially what we do in a nutshell. And moving on, we also have a number of partners, and you know, Wireless Social is an important partner for us. Essentially, we partner and integrate with companies that make life easier and better for our customers or for their guests, and ideally both. And you'll recognise a lot of these companies here that we work with and integrate with. And I think at this point, I'm going to pass you over to Kevin to get a little bit more specific. I'll leave you with a quote from one of our customers, the CEO of Las Iguanas. But as I said, on the website next week, you'll see some videos from these guys and some others.
Great. Thanks, Carlo. So yes, it's been a real pleasure to be working with the guys at Wireless Social for some time now. We announced our partnership back in December last year, and we think this is going to be something that brings a huge amount of insight and contextual information to our shared customers. Today I'm going to focus and show you two of the elements that involves in that, as Sam alluded to. So the first one is post-visit emails. So we can get a subscriber feed from Wireless Social, which helps us help our customers get more feedback. So we've been working with hospitality groups now for over 10 years. We've been helping them understand what their guests think for the last 5. And there are a number of different ways you can ask your guests for feedback. Different approaches work for different companies. But ultimately, the more feedback you can get without it feeling like a burden to your guests, the more powerful your decision making. So that's where this partnership with Wireless Social comes in, because we can help automate that process of collecting feedback. So your guests are already signing on to their Wi-Fi, so we know they're in the venue. We also know how long they're staying for as well. But on top of that, the next time they visit one of your venues, that visit is automatically recognised and can be used to trigger a post-event email for every single visit, subject to rules that you can specify. So you can send them a non-obtrusive email asking them to give you some feedback. So there's no staff training, no hardware costs, just better insight through gathering more volume. You can offer a bounce back incentive if you want to encourage more feedback, or perhaps use that to drive repeat traffic. So let me show you how it works then. So I'm going to take you into our reporting system just now, and if you're a customer, you would have seen this. If we've spoken to you in the past, I'm sure you would have seen it as well. This is our demo system, so the data is all entirely fake. But it's just to give you a quick overview today of how this post-visit email integration works, but also looking at some of the presence data that Sam's been talking about. So rather than me speaking for hours, I'm just going to focus on those 2 things today. So in terms of managing this, then I'm just going to visit the admin system. There we go, control pointer. Right. So as you can see, that the whole system is entirely kind of self-service. We obviously help all our customers get things set up, but anything can be tweaked and changed accordingly. But right at the bottom here, we've got our post-visit emailer section. So I'm going to start by showing you the templates. Now this is where we create the email templates to be sent to the customers, to the guests. We've got our own nice looking standard template, which we can provide, which can be used. But alternatively, your design agency can provide your very own branded emailer into this form here, and they simply drop the code in, allow you to update the content as you need, and then that will be tweaked, ready for you to send to your clients. You can use kind of mail merge functionality to pick out information as you go through, like the guest name, last name, when they visited, and so on. So you can really personalise the email for that guest. So once we've saved the template, then we can also specify the rules that I mentioned to you earlier. So these are the rules we use to send any emails to your guests. We can choose when to send the email. So usually we would want to send the email the following day, the day after their visit, but that could be extended if need be. We can also say how often we want to email the guest as well. I mean, you may decide that you want to email the guest after every visit, but if they're visiting 3 or 4 times a week, perhaps you'd want to calm that frequency down a little. So you can say, in this case, well, they may visit 3 times a week, but let's only email them once every 2 weeks, in this example here. As Carla mentioned, we've got the case management, the guest recovery system built in too. And this is something where our customers can manage complaints coming from their guests. So we can set a rule here to say, actually, if this person's got an open complaint, if there's a problem they've had, we're currently dealing with it, let's not bother and ask them for feedback now until that complaint's been resolved. We can also use this to remove people from the mailing who have already given feedback in the last few days. So perhaps they were at a venue, perhaps they provided feedback of their own accord. So we'll say, well, let's not speak to them for at least 3 days after they previously gave feedback. There are lots of things that happen under the hood as well. So if, for example, we know that guest has been in and given feedback that evening without being prompted for the visit that we were looking to send an email for, we can immediately switch that one off, so they won't be bothered again if we know they've already provided feedback. Of course, the other one that isn't listed here, which is automatic, is if the guest has opted out of mailings, then they would never receive an email from us again. Okay, and the final section, just to show you, is the data sources. So very simple. We've set one up for Wireless Social here. There's some technical information at the top, which is all about how Wireless Social can send the data to us. But the most important thing is the rules here for minutes at site. So this is specific to the data we're getting from wireless social, and this is where you can choose when you consider that person to have been in your venue for a meal or for a drink. So for example, were they just walking by outside? So if we picked up everyone, they could have just been walking past outside, their phone could have connected to the Wi-Fi, and therefore that could have triggered an email. But you can set this threshold here to say, for example, in casual dining, you may say, well, look, if they've been here for 45 minutes or more, that's when we want to email them. If you're working in quick service, maybe if they've been here for 3 minutes or more, that's when we want to email them. So you can fully control which of your Wi-Fi users and your guests you'd like to email for feedback. So that's how we set everything up. And in true Blue Peter style, I have one I prepared earlier, which is an email which has been generated through the wireless social data. So I've been for a visit. This is looking at our demo system right now. So I've been for a visit. I've logged onto the Wi-Fi. The very next day, we get a feed from wireless social. That feed says that Joe, in this case, has been in for a visit. He met all the rules. He hasn't given feedback recently. He was there for the given time. So he's been sent an email asking him for feedback. And again, this is a standard template we can provide, but this can be fully customized and branded as needed. So what I'm going to do is, Joe, I'm just going to click on the link there, and that will take me into the feedback system. Now, for our current customers, I know some of you on the call, you'll know that all the screens here, they're fully customizable. So the text, there's also a kind of customization with the layout, the background images we can do. So this can all be customized, and the messaging as well in the voice of your brand. So, okay, great, it's going to take me 2 minutes to do feedback. So let me say, yes, I will, click Get Started. And because we pulled this data from wireless social, because that told us which venue Joe was at, what time he arrived, which day he was there, we can fill all that in for Joe, and he doesn't have to go through and try and find the right branch and select the date and time. It just makes the process much easier for him. So I can just say I was there for food and drink, and immediately I can carry on and start giving feedback about my visit. Once I've been through the process and given feedback, that will automatically appear within our feedback tab here. So all the pieces of feedback, whether they be from social sources such as TripAdvisor or Google, it would filter through into this view here, so they'll be able to see all the data. Okay, so that's the integration we have in place right now for post-visit emails. That's live, that's ready to go, so we can switch that on for any shared customers. But something we're really excited about is, and I think that came through in Sam's presentation earlier, is the inclusion of the presence data that wireless social can provide us. It all sounds all very techy, but actually all it is, it's a record of the devices that have been into the venue, that have walked past, how long they've been there, how many times they visited. So this gives us a real understanding of how many people come in, how many people might pass by. Now, Sam said until they sign up for the Wi-Fi and opt in, that they're anonymous to us, but it gives us some great context to understand what was going on in a venue on a particular night, over time, and perhaps if a guest has had a particular problem. So from a feedback perspective then, this helps us to do several things. We can look at the context of the feedback, we can look at how busyness affects service and atmosphere scores, for example. We can look at the trending relationships between NPS, Net Promoter Score, and footfall. We can look at what's been happening when a guest has complained, and also get more information about that guest. Are they a regular customer? How long do they spend in their venue? How often do they visit? And find some more information to help us make a decision on how we want to deal with a potential complaint. So the integrations we've got here, we already made a start on. We're expecting them to be live in Q2. But for now, I've got a bit of a sneak preview to show you of what you'd be seeing when you logged into feedback as a wireless social customer. So I'm going to start here on our trend analysis screen. So trend analysis is something we're working on right now. It's going to be live this month. And it's to make it easier for our users to look at trends over days, weeks, and business periods. It's not shown here. It's all hidden away in this show filters option. But you'll be able to see all the metrics to do with guest experience. And we'll be adding those related to the wireless social data total devices in venue, those passing by, first-time visitors, return visitors, and so on. So in this graph here, we're showing how the number of devices over time varies and its effect on the NPS score. So again, this is just sample data I'm showing you here. It looks like there's generally an upward trend between the two. But this might not always be the case. Imagine if we were looking at atmosphere scores, for example, or service scores. You can imagine how they would perhaps improve as things got busier, but then there would be a point where they would start to drop again. So this is great information to help you define what's going on within the venues and perhaps look at staffing rotas and other factors that could affect the service scores alongside how busy the venue is. Now we're looking at data here is just for a company, just at the top level here, but we could view this by branch and by area too. So that's trend over time. The next panel, which we're also building, is slightly more detailed, and this allows you to drill down on how busyness affects NPS, atmosphere, service, and other metrics, both by day of the week and by day part. So we've actually got 3 graphs on this screen, if I scroll down a little bit. And you can see, for example, across the top one, we're looking at over a period, the different services we have, and these are customizable per customer, the relationship between how busy that venue is, number of devices, and in this case, I think we've got NPS score, but we could change that to be service score or atmosphere and so on. So this could help identify times when perhaps more services are required, if service scores are dropping, or conversely, that maybe a drop in service score isn't related to busyness of the venue, but related to another factor such as it's the GM's night off. So we've got the data all combined here, looking at day parts and day of week, and then we break that down individually as well. And in this case, we're looking at atmosphere and how that changes by day part, and also service scores, and perhaps how on a Friday, we might need to look at doing something there to improve their service scores again. Okay. The third screen I've got to show you then, and this is kind of drilling down. So we've been looking at the macro level so far, but from an operational perspective, working with wireless social, we can provide some great context to individual pieces of feedback. So before I show you that, we talked about the feedback scorecards here. So if I just grab one, which is a piece of feedback by a guest, and here we go. So I click on this scorecard here. This is what our customers normally see when they're looking at a piece of feedback. So we can see the star ratings, the NPS score, any comments would appear here, answers to other questions, if there's an EPOS link, the dishes that the guest ordered, and then actions tab for monitoring comments. So what we're looking to do is add 2 new tabs to this to help provide further context on individual pieces of feedback or even complaints. Excuse me. So the first tab then is context. So this helps add some flavour to the information provided by the guest. In this case, we're showing a view of service scores by hour provided by other guests in the venue compared with how busy it is, based on the device data that we can get from, the presence data we can get from wireless social. So this can help validate statements that the guest may have made. You know, they could say it was incredibly busy, or actually it was quite quiet and we didn't get served very quickly. You know, in this case, we can see actually service scores have dropped at 2 PM when things quietened down a little bit, but perhaps the staff were still dealing with the leftover table clearing and so on that needed to be done from the previous hour. So we can start to really drill down and see what else might be going on in the venue at the time that has led to this feedback. Excuse me. Just below that as well, we can also show other feedback that's come in from the venue around a similar time as this guest arrived, again to further add some context. Was it a problem with this guest in particular, or was it something that affected everyone within the venue? Okay, the next tab then is the guest tab. And if I just switch to that one now, so this does require them to have used the Wi-Fi, and they continue to provide feedback based on the email we would have sent them. but it will start to give us some more indicative information about how long they've been in the venue for. So it looks like they've been here for about an hour and a half this time, but also we can see previous visits. Now, we may have sent them a post-visit email to ask for feedback, but even if we haven't, we'll know they've been back. So we can start to see whether they're a regular customer, how long they come for, how long do they stay. And that starts to build up a picture about who this customer is and might give your GMs and your guest experience team some further insight into perhaps how we might want to consider dealing with this person who may have had a poor experience on this visit. As Sam mentioned as well, we can also put in likes data based on the subscriber data that can be provided by Wireless Social to give some context to this person's visit as well, so we know maybe what they enjoy, what they don't enjoy, and that could potentially be used to help offer a voucher or an incentive to return related to their particular likes. So in summary then, the partnership between Wireless Social and Feedback is going to bring our shared clients a simpler, less costly way of collecting this solicited feedback. At a macro level, we're going to be able to see how busyness affects things like NPS and the other KPIs, and vice versa. How is our NPS score driving the more devices in venue? But also providing context to help your GMs and guest experience team to respond accordingly. I think that's enough talk from me now, so happy to answer any questions you might have, but in the meantime, Sam, back to you.
Thank you so much for that, Kevin. It certainly does impress me what you guys do with this data, not just because it's our data, but it always does pleasantly surprise me what people are using this to achieve. So I'm hoping that's been really useful for the Wireless Social customers who don't currently have something of this type in their venues. You can really achieve a huge amount of insight without really disrupting your customers. And now, not even whilst they're in the venue, obviously, it can be achieved after they leave, and really help them by narrowing down when they arrived and which venue that. So yeah, I'm hoping that was really useful. A couple of kind of closing statements from myself. One is, please do ask questions. Feedback, positive, negative. That's how both of our companies have grown over the last couple of years, which is admitting that we don't know everything and asking our customers, saying, right, what would make your lives easier? What would give you extra ammunition to go into each day? So feedback, anything that you've taken away from this, any observations, no matter how granular, it would be incredibly appreciated by both parties. Two is, we're going to want some guinea pigs now. We want guys to get out there and test this integration. And again, feedback to us on how it actually is benefiting you guys, warts and all. So please, those who are joint customers, let's get this working straight away. Reach out to the Carlos team or reach out to us and we'll get it sorted for you straight away. And finally, if there's anything you've seen on here today as a Feedback customer or as a Wireless Social customer, we both try and do our best, even in isolation, to make sure everyone knows about what we're doing, and make sure that everyone knows what's available with the service that you're paying us for, which we incredibly appreciate, and possibly aren't always doing the best job of keeping you in the loop on. So please get in touch with whoever your account manager or whoever your contact is at Wireless Social. I'm sure the guys at Feedback will mirror that. Anything you want to catch up with us about, now's the perfect time. Pick up the phone straight after this webinar or drop us an email, and we'll be delighted to help. So apart from that, yeah, I just want to say thank you so much.